Let's get into it. Coach Colin podcast. It's Coach Colin news. Oh, maybe I'll call it that. You guys know this is the new channel. We break away from the Rogan content and we just start talking about other things. Today, we're talking about the immigration crisis and voter ID, whether or not the country needs voter ID. I know where I stand. Definitely needed. But we're going to go through some things. So we got Mark Cuban and Lex Friedman talking. So they're having a conversation about the immigration crisis and the theory that all of this is happening just to bring in voters. Okay, so we're going to touch on that. Mark Cuban, for some reason, cannot keep Trump's name out of his mouth. You're about to witness a little bit of TDS, just a little bit. It's very odd. Lex keeps reeling him in. Then we're going to go over to the Patrick Bet-David podcast because Patrick Bet-David has some great stats on who wants voter ID, what states want it, and what states don't. Then we go on to Candace Owens and Chris Cuomo. Cuomo? There you go. They're having an argument. They're having a debate. They're going back and forth about voter ID. And then Candace asks him a very clear yes or no question, and you will be shocked, or maybe you won't, at what his answer is. And then we get into Congress. People at Congress actually saying that voter ID is very racist. So you're going to hear that. It's going to sound crazy, but it's true. They really do feel that way. Or maybe they just want voters. Who knows? And then we're going to end it off with a very prestigious man, Wesley Hunt, a African American, a black man, an American. Forget the African part. This man is all American, and he goes in on this whole voter ID being racist thing. Can't wait for you guys to see it. Stay tuned for that clip. I promise you will not regret it. Let's get into Lex Friedman and Mark Cuban first, though. Let's go.
But the immigration situation, a lot of conservatives are using that sort of the theory is that the reason it's happening is because they would be able to illegally vote.
That's insane.
For Biden.
Yeah, you can't be an illegal immigrant and vote. And now in a lot of states, because of the conservatives, they've passed laws saying you have to show identification. When I voted in Texas, you had to show, state identification. They can't vote. You can't register as an illegal alien that I'm aware of to vote.
Yeah, but of course that story that really worries me enables or serves as a catalyst for questioning the legitimacy of an election.
I remember going to the debate with Trump in 2016, and he was debating Clinton. And one of the things he said was, we don't even know if this election will be legitimate if I lose. This was in 2016 before he was even elected, and that was where he was going. That's just what he does. He's never admitted a mistake. The guy's failed a zillion times. Most people say, okay, I learned from him. I read a book about Roy Cohn, and Roy Cohn was the ultimate deny, and that was one of Trump's mentors. And you can see almost everything that Roy Cohn ever did in the same way that Donald Trump approaches things.
But given how drastic the immigration situation is, that story becomes more believable.
Yeah, of course it does, right? But the facts are still the facts, right? And in red states, they're going to be checking every ID. They're going to be making sure that's not the case. And you can also make the argument, well, in the blue state, it doesn't matter. In the swing states, they're still going to be checking because they know Trump is going to sue the shit out of him when he loses, And so, again, that's where, people will take those self-preservation steps to keep their job and do the right thing. There's still enough people who believe in this country and how amazing it is to do the right thing. And a lot of the premise of what some conservatives are saying and doing, the underpinning of it is that their fellow citizens will not do anything, not some things, anything that serves the best interest of this country. And to me, that's just wrong. That is just misleading and wrong.
I just worry about, I don't care about Trump or Biden. I care about democracy. Mm-hmm. I just worry. I worry about the viral nature of the idea of this illegal immigrants.
But it's very functional. Right? Either they get across, there's 1,000 different ways an unlimited number of ways to enter the United States of America undetected, right? And the south border where it's the easiest and the worst. And Biden needs to take steps to reduce that. Remember, when Biden was vice president and Obama was president, they called Obama the deporter in chief. He had no problem deporting people. And I think, if I had to guess, and this is just a guess, that when they looked at the initial statistics for immigration when Biden took over, they thought there was room for more immigrants, not because they would vote, but you can make a fiscal argument that in a world where the birth rate is flat to declining, we need immigrants, right? And immigrants typically don't have a higher crime rate or anything than, indigenous American citizens. Indigenous isn't the right word, but American citizens. And so they made a calculated mistake. They made a decision that was wrong, and now they have to fix it, or it's going to hurt them severely. But I don't buy, like what Elon's pushing, that the whole reason is they are voters and will become voters.
And we should say the obvious. You're a descendant of immigrants.
Yeah, for sure.
And the immigrants is what makes this country great in many parts, the diversity of this nation. And we should probably keep the people that are like already been in this country for a while and are killing it, like PhD students and all this. It's like
that's not what Donald Trump wants, though. He wants to ship them all out, right? There's just a whole lot of hyperbole.
How does he keep going back to Trump? It's so weird because, listen, I'm showing you guys a clip here, but they're just talking about immigration. It's not like Lex was like, hey, let's talk about Trump and immigration. He just wanted to focus on immigration. He keeps pulling the conversation back to it. He even says, I don't care about, Trump or Biden. Like, he's trying to make it clear, like, hey, we're talking about immigration here. This guy keeps going into Trump. And also, it's funny because what Lex just said is very true. You want to keep the PhD students. It doesn't seem, could be wrong. Listen, there's been literally, since Biden has taken office, there's been like 5 million people that have come across illegally. So I don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem like most of them are PhD students. Just doesn't seem that way to me, But yeah, that's just me. I'm speculating. They could all be PhD students. Every single person you saw rushing the border and running around, they could all be PhD students. Who knows? But I doubt it. I very much doubt it. Now, back to what Mark Cuban was saying about the birth rate being low. See, this is the thing I don't get. There are so many people who don't believe in conspiracy theories. They're not into those theories. That whole they're bringing in voters, like that's a conspiracy. But then they will conjure these weird conspiracy theories as a means to not grab onto the one that's even more apparent. To say that it's the birth rate was low, so they probably looked at the numbers and then said, we need immigrants. And for that reason, didn't secure the border of the United States of America and undid all of those things that Trump put in place. That's your reasoning. So the fact that they can become voters, that's completely just crazy. I don't buy it. But birth rate was low. Biden went, man, I'm not seeing as many people outside as I usually see. Can I get somebody on this? Hey, open up Eagle Pass. Can you open up Eagle Pass for me? That's what happened. That's your theory? It's a worse conspiracy theory than bringing in voters. Barely makes any sense. Now, obviously, yes, there are birth rates declining worldwide pretty quite a bit. But here's the thing. Italy had the same problem. They didn't just open their borders. They made a program where they were like, this city has this many places for people, and we will pay you if you meet certain criteria. And that's how they were actually impacting their birth rate positively. They were taking people in legally, and you had to pass certain criteria, and then you were able to actually get a house there. Probably wouldn't be the best house, but you'd be able to actually live in Italy. And they were helping, the government was helping you do it. That's how people handle birth rates collapsing. They don't just open up borders and just say, hey, everybody come in, quick. Not enough people are doing it here. That's insane. Anyway, and then the last thing, what I rate here, people questioning, the birth rates. What else? Oh, that's what worries Lex. Lex isn't worried about the fact that these people could be voters. but he's worried that now people will question elections. People always have questioned elections. Anybody who loses at anything is going to go, are you sure? Hillary did it. I'm sure, well, Obama couldn't have done it, but Hillary did it. I'm sure Clinton did it. I'm sure Bush has done it. Trump did it. I'm sure Biden's going to do it. Every single time people question elections. How do you not question it? It's such a big thing, and you're trying so hard to win. So when you lose, you go, hold on a second. No, I think I did everything. I mean, literally, for 6 months after Trump was elected, he was an illegitimate president, according to Hillary Clinton. That just happens. That's a natural thing, and it's okay. It's okay to question it. I don't think that wrecks democracy or unsteadies it or erodes it or anything. It's okay to just say, hey, I think I didn't get a fair shake. I want to recount. I want to understand what happened here. I want to understand what happened there. That's fine. Let's move on. We got Patrick Bet-David breaking down some stats that are going to blow Mark Cuban's mind, because Mark Cuban's like, listen, you cannot vote if you're an illegal alien. And you know what? I thought the same thing. Patrick Bet-David has some numbers for us. Check this out.
This is not him. Yeah, okay, good. This is him. We can verify this. Why are we so worried about finding systems to verify? Let me give you data, and then I'm going to come to my friend here, Chris. Ready? So 16 out of 50 states in America do not require an ID to vote. Those 16 out of 50 states, Rob, if you can pull this up, those 16 out of 50 states have 212 of the electoral votes out of the 538. Let me say it again. The 16 out of 50 states, you have no need to go like this and walk in when you're voting to say, hey, can you please pull out your ID and do one of these things? Nope, you don't have to do it. They're not asking for your ID. They could care less about your ID. 212. Now watch this. 11 out of 50 states don't require a photo ID. You can just give an ID, but no photo. Did you guys understand me so far? Those 11 out of 50 states that don't require a photo ID to vote have 69 electoral votes out of the 538. 69 plus 212, it's a sweep forever for the left. Just so you know this. This is not me telling you this. This is the government telling you this, what our guidelines are by states today. And the rest, 23 out of 50 states, only 23, less than 50% of our states actually require to go like this. How pathetic is that, Chris, to have something like that? You don't have to be a left, right, or a center person to say that doesn't make sense. What are your thoughts on this, the way we're voting today?
There's a lot that goes to it. You have half the representation of the U.S. government.
I can't believe they hired this propagandist. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I think this was a very bad call. You went from trying to get Tucker Carlson with $100 million, and then you settled on Chris Cuomo. Great. Thanks, Patrick. You know, it's just like, come on. I would have been happier if he got like David Peckman. I'd be like, okay, at least he got like a serious lefty. You know, David Peckman, he's like a serious lefty. You know, Chris Cuomo, he's just a propagandist. And here's the thing with these guys: as much as he's left mainstream TV, he still is pushing their narrative. So whatever they're attached to, and I've made videos about this. Tucker Carlson's talked about it openly. A lot of journalists, a lot of these media personalities, they are connected to certain agencies and get talking points from them. And that doesn't stop once they're not associated with the CNN or the ABC or the whatever network. So when I see him, I'm just like, oh, you made a huge mistake hiring this guy. But Candace Owens does handle this gentleman very well. Let's get into that clip. Actually, you know what? Before that, Patrick Bet-David just dropped all those numbers. Then I saw this tweet. This is what sparked this whole episode, honestly. So, holy S, the number of voters registering without a photo ID is skyrocketing in 3 swing states. Check this out. Arizona, Texas, and Pennsylvania. Since the start of 2024, Texas, 1.2 million. Pennsylvania, 580,000. Arizona, 220,000. Absolutely wild. Now, you go down here a little further. HAVV allows voters to register with a social security number, 4 digits. Illegals are not able to get licenses there, but they can get social security cards for work authorization permits. There you go. Elon Musk actually weighed in because, Mark Cuban was right about one thing. Elon really is watching this whole thing unfold. He's posting about it regularly. He's reposting things. He's commenting, as you can see. A lot of people are saying the same thing. Democrats have to cheat to win, things of that nature, because, for most people, this is all very apparent. But when I saw this person tweet this, I said, it's just a tweet. Let's look a little deeper. So what I tend to do, and you can do this too, you're ever on X and you see a tweet and it's something that's providing you with information, just copy and paste the entire tweet and just put that into search. Do your Brave, your Google, whatever you choose. And it'll, wherever they got the information, if they've taken it verbatim, will pop up somewhere. Maybe they're a real journalist. Maybe they write their own thing, whatever. But it actually is something here. It is on a website. It's the exact same thing. So this is really happening. So they really are able to do this. And that's why when I found the Patrick Bet-David information, I was like, oh, this actually makes sense. That's why there's 16 states, no voter ID needed. I did not know that either. That's wild. I had no idea. And that's why there's 11 just ID. They're already been working on this. It sounds, from when I would think of this whole voter thing, I always thought it's something that they're working on and they can't get it passed fully. But I guess that's just not true because, like he said, 212, 69, what are we talking about? We're talking about almost 300 electoral votes. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then there's only 23 that require ID. That's wild to me. Oh, man. So Mark Cuban is 100% wrong, and that is a thing that can definitely happen. You can end up voting as an illegal because you're going to be in the country long enough. You want to work, you get your work authorization, and now all of a sudden you can register to vote. In only 16, no ID. So 16 for sure. And then there's 11 that where you can just take those 4 digits and vote. And apparently 3 of those 11 are Arizona, Texas, Pennsylvania. Now, that's just me making that connection. I don't know that for sure. You could look into that and see, but it sounds very weird to me. I mean, Mark Cuban even brought up voting in Texas and how he was asked to show ID. But again, maybe they just had that social security number and that was it. And that's all they needed. So interesting. Now you're going to see Candace Owens and Chris Cuomo go back and forth a little bit. And honestly, everybody who's on the wrong side, I shouldn't say I'm just going to say the wrong side. I have a bias. I think you should need voter ID. I'm very open with my biases all the time. So I'm going to say the wrong side. Anyone who's on the wrong side of this argument, which is saying that you shouldn't need voter ID, is just, they always get handled in these arguments because it just makes no sense. It's obvious that it's a play for power. But let's hear them go back and forth. Let's go.
To it. You have half the representation of the U.S. government represents 1/3 of the population. Why? Because of how we do it with the Senate and redistricting rules and stuff like that. So there's a fundamental imbalance. Voter ID, here are the 2 arguments, and you can assess them how you want. Is it that, I forget how it was explained earlier, but I don't know that it's that the government, whatever that means, if you want to ascribe it all to one groupthink, doesn't trust blacks or think minorities are capable of or whatever. But the argument is that culturally, socioeconomically, as you go down in terms of the poverty level, as poverty becomes more important, there's less connection with government. There's less percentage of people who want to interface with government and who have identification. So the argument is, if you say you need an ID to vote, you will have an unfair bias against those strata of society that don't tend to get IDs and don't want to deal with government.
Okay, but I just have.
I'm just saying that is the argument.
No, it's not an argument to lie. Okay, because
but
it's
that
not
is
about
the argument.
You don't get an ID because you want to engage with government. You get an ID because you want to drive. You get an ID because you're 19
Right.
and you're 21 and you want to have your first drink. You get an ID because you quite literally need an ID to do so many things in
That's
society.
true.
So forget it. You wouldn't say that people that are in a lower socioeconomic class are never drinking, are never driving, are never doing all of the other things that are required, never seeing a movie that's above PG-16. You need an ID to do so much in life. So you're focusing, this is the lie. You're saying, well, they don't tend to vote. That might be true. That might definitely be true.
No, they
but
don't
that's
tend
not
to
why
have
they're getting an
IDs.
ID. That's not why they're getting an ID. So
I understand.
They're just lying.
I understand. I don't think it's a lie. It could be wrong. It could be a
If
false
it's wrong,
assumption.
then it's a lie. If you keep saying it, if it's
No.
wrong and you keep saying it, it becomes a lie, right?
No, that's only
There's no
if-
black people that are not getting their IDs.
That's-
I
look,
came from
again-
a low socioeconomic background. I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old
All right.
because I wanted to drive and
I
pick
get
up
it.
my boyfriend.
I get it. And
Those are the
it-
reasons people get IDs.
I
That's
get it.
simple. I love you too.
I get it. What I'm saying is, two things can be true at once.
Man, you hire Chris and not Candace. Are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Now, we're going to play another clip here. But, again, Candace is 100% right. Who gets an ID because they're like, I want to be able to engage with the government and I want them to be able to identify me. And, sometimes your mom, when you're young, will do that. And like, what if something happens to you? If something happens to you, you need to have an ID so they know who you are. There's that. But usually it's because you want to drink, you want to drive, you want to go to the place. Your friends are all going. Hey, do you have your ID? Yeah, I have my ID. Great. We're all going to go together. We're going to have a great time. It's for those are the reasons you get an ID. If I didn't need a driver's license, I wouldn't have one. If I didn't really need it, you know what I mean? Like if I didn't need all these IDs, I wouldn't be, like if right now one of my IDs was expiring or something, I'd be like, oh man, I got to go get it. It's not because it's like, oh man, it's my, you need it. You need it. You need it to do things. I don't even drink. Still need it. I don't know. Like I'm gonna need it for something. And I'm black. For those of you that are just listening, I know that could sound very surprising to you. I apologize for that. If I'm startling you right now, I'm black. Candace Owens gives Chris a very clear yes or no question. And of course, this guy's a propagandist. He answers like a propagandist would. Let's go.
But I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I ran with this. I believe in this. I believe that voting should be as easy and immediate as possible. I think that voting should not be one day. I think that voting, if it is going to be on that one day should be a vacation day for everybody in America so that they can go out and vote. I believe in early voting. I believe in online voting. I believe that we should have as many people voting as possible so we make it as easy as possible. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it, but that's not my problem. It is not even this issue. It's not both sides of the aisle. The right, until voter ID, has consistently been against anything that would increase who votes.
Okay,
and I think there are reasons for that. But I am in favor of this.
Can I ask you a yes or no?
Yes or no?
Ready? Can we play that game again?
Yes. Did I
Should
get it right?
Americans be required to have ID to vote? Chris, yes or no?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Until I see fraud rates that go along with the distinction, I don't believe that you make a simple pitch. Then my answer is no. And my answer is no because I don't believe I don't believe you want the government having even more control over who can vote and who can't.
Okay, so okay. That's fine. I'm glad you're being honest. I just want to say, if you are a black or Hispanic American, please find me the black or Hispanic American who does not work, because you need an ID to get a W-T form, get set up, they ask you for your ID, who does not vote, who does not drink, who does not drive or drive somebody else's car. this person does not exist. It does not travel. You can't get on a plane without it. This person does not exist, okay? So it is the lie that they tell so that they can rig our elections by having a bunch of people who are not Americans coming in and voting. And
But where's the proof that happens?
Everybody knows that, okay?
How can you know what we've never been shown? Where is the fraud?
Everybody
Where are
knows
the
that.
fake
And the
votes?
idea that any person will get up and say to you that they do not believe that you should have an ID to vote. I'm not even gonna characterize what you just said.
But you backed it up by saying that we know that all these people vote who aren't supposed to. Where's the proof of that?
We understand the voting rolls. There's dead people on the voting rolls, and this has been proven
Every time they measure this with billions and billions of vote checks, and anybody here or Magic Rob, go up and find different for me on the internet. They look and they see that the amount of fraud in elections is de minimis, which is beyond a level of action. We just went through this.
Okay, let me ask the question a different way.
Chris,
let me ask.
I hope you forever have a
hang on.
platform.
Let me ask a question a different way.
I do.
Let me ask
I
a question
really
a different way. Chris, here's a question. You and I run a nightclub.
Yes.
Okay, it's 21 and over.
Need an ID.
Why?
Because otherwise you can't tell whether they're over 21. And they're worried about the liability.
What about you can't tell whether they're American?
Show me proof.
Listen,
Show me proof.
I get the arguments. I get
No,
what
that's
the
not.
arguments
This is no, Chris. This to me is more.
Yes.
No, it's common sense. It's for me to. Okay.
So why do you think that they don't do it again? Because you agree with Candace that the reason they don't require ID is because they want a lot of illegal votes and to manipulate the system.
A lot of
all the watchdogs from the right that follow this issue have just never been able to prove it?
Well, you're racist if you say something.
Of everything Candace said about IDs was for me to be able to get a driver's license, for me to be able to get for me to be able to do this, for me to be able to do that.
I agree.
For me, it's a different reason on why you need a driver. It's for me to know who the hell you are. It's very different.
I totally get it.
I'm not interested in what, all that stuff that I get to do selfishly because I need the ID to do that. No. When you came in here right now, we have friends we respect a lot and we respect our guests. Did you guys all come through a metal detective? Yes or no? Do you know how many cops and sheriff are around here right now? You know how much we spend on security right now to make sure they're safe and nobody can come in here where you're safe as well? Now, we're doing our part. We invest the resources there. Sheriff is very good with us. Cops are very good with us. But did you guys come in here? Did somebody walk you through, find out, verify, checking who you are, what you're doing? We have to do that. We got to go through that process.
I totally get it.
And by the way, this is not 1/1,000,000th of as important as an election, okay?
Very well said. Very well said. Yeah, the guy feels that you shouldn't need a voter ID. Here's the thing that he just said near the end that really stuck out. He's saying, so you think it's just so you can have a bunch of illegal immigrants all voting, right? And everybody in the crowd, Candace, Patrick, everybody says, yes, that is it. And then he says, well, and none of these watchdogs from the right have been able to see this and prove it. If they're given the right to vote because of people with his exact mindset saying exactly what he's saying, what is there to prove? You can't, a watchdog is going to find voter fraud. If they're allowed to go to these states, now that I'm finding out there's 16 of them, if they can go to those states, then there's nothing to prove. They're allowed to vote. They just are allowed to vote. So I don't understand why he would even bring that up. See, that's what I mean. This guy just talks out of he's just always. It's ridiculous. Ever since he lied about being in his basement for a week, and then he got into an argument with I'll never. And then when he was talking to Tucker Carlson, he doubled down and he said what he did was right. And then he was looking for Tucker to apologize because Tucker attacked him about his stance in the whole pandemic. Oh my God. Can never see past that with this guy. Can never see past that. Tried to gaslight a nation. Oh my gosh. I don't know why Patrick hired this guy. Absolutely terrible. But that's why the watchdogs can't find anything. And the watchdogs are watching for voter fraud, but they're also looking at the border being open and that they know that there's 16 states now where they can actually go and vote. And it's like, well, it's obvious what you're doing. And then there's another 11 where you don't need photo ID So you could go, this is all just with what I've researched and found out just recently, but you could go with your social security number. That's it. What are we talking about? That's how many states? 27? No, that would be 27. Yeah. What? No. I don't know, man. That's a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it would be. Jeez. That's a lot. That's a lot, man. And then you look at the border and you're like, okay, well, obviously this is why it's so open. And that's why when Texas took it down from thousands every single day coming through to just 3 to 10 people, Biden's like, oh, you got to open that up. You got to open that up. Why? You want to close it down so to deter them from coming. No. You gotta open up that flow. Why? Why else? What else could this be for? The guy has an election. I don't know. I'm not gonna point any fingers. Do I have a picture of him so I can point my pointer at him? No, I don't. All right, let's move on to the next video. We have people sticking to this whole story, sticking to this whole script about how it's racist. Listen to this.
The ranking member. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start with a question for each of the 5 witnesses. In your judgment, are voter ID laws racist? Professor Tolson.
Thank you for that question. So it depends. One thing we have to stop doing is treating all voter ID laws as the same.
Okay, so your answer, I want to move quickly, so it depends is your answer?
Yes, that's my answer.
Okay, so what voter ID laws are racist?
Apologies, Mr. Cruz, your state of Texas, perhaps?
Okay, so you think the entire state of Texas is racist. What about requiring an ID to vote is racist?
So I think, sir, that's pretty reductive. I'm not saying the entire state of Texas is racist.
You just said my state of Texas, so you tell me, what about the Texas voter ID laws is racist?
So the fact that the voter ID law was put into place to diminish the political power of Latinos with racist intent and had been found to have
You're
racist
asserting
intent.
that. What's your evidence for that?
The federal district court that first resolved the constitutionality of Texas's voter ID law.
Okay, so your view is voter ID laws are racist. How about you, Mr. Yang?
I agree with Professor Tolson. Voter ID laws can be racist.
Okay, that's
on the
2.
context.
Mr. Science?
There are some voter ID laws that are racially discriminatory in intent.
How about in practice? In intent, fine, you say there's some racist with a malevolent intent lurking in the back of their mind. But let's just talk about it as a practical matter. When I go to vote, they ask me for my ID. I pull out my ID, I show it to them, I vote. Is that racist?
If the law that requires you to do that was motivated by racially discriminatory intent
what about the
under
effect?
our
Set
Constitution.
aside intent. Set aside intent. I'm asking about the effect.
Yes, in effect, I think that there are discriminatory effects from a number of voter ID laws.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reardon.
I'm going to give the witness a chance to answer the question. Go ahead, Mr. Sines.
Yes, in effects, I think many voter ID laws are discriminatory. And in design, they are designed to have that effect.
Okay, Ms. Reardon.
No, sir.
Mr. Van Spakovsky.
No, particularly because every single state that has passed an ID law has put in a provision to provide a free ID to anyone who doesn't have one. The turnout numbers show it has no effect, and I would remind everyone that the current version of the Texas voter ID law for in-person voting, the Obama administration agreed in court, in a court filing, that they were satisfied with it and that it was not discriminatory.
You know, I have to say this range of question actually shows the wildly partisan nature of the Democrats' proposal. The record should reflect all 3 of the Democratic witnesses invited by the chairman maintained to this committee that voter ID laws can be, in many instances, in most instances, I think of the various ways they formulated, are racist. So let me tell you who disagrees with that. 35 states across the country disagree with that because 35 states have voter ID laws in effect. But not just 35 states. 81% of voters in America disagree with the radical views proposed by the Democrats and the Democratic witnesses. Not just 81% of Americans. 77% of black voters in America support voter ID laws. 78% of Hispanic voters in America support voter ID laws. Maldev should think about that. 81% of low-income Americans support voter ID laws. And yet, what this bill is about is putting radicals in charge of saying if you require an ID to vote, that is racist and must be struck down. This is all about partisan power. Now, DOJ has also said, under the Biden administration, that it is not.
So I let that run a little long. Yes, obviously a play for power. These people can't even fully explain why they're saying that it's racist. They're just like, it could be if it was made with racist intent. It's like, well, how would you know that? And how would the guy who just turned voting age, how would he know? How would he know? It's at the end of the day, when you have this argument, you are saying that black people and Hispanic people either don't know how or are too lazy to go and get ID to vote. That's what you're saying. But here's the thing. When it comes to the left, when it comes to these weird ideologies, these weird community organizers, these weirds, I'll call them soldiers of Zelensky. When it comes to these people, this is what they do. They will play this oppression hand to the maximum extent. They're setting the bar so low for black people. Oh, he can't do it. He can't do it. Just make it so he doesn't have to do anything. Come on. Just let him in. Next thing you know, it's going to be like, what do you mean pants? This is patriarchy, white supremacist stuff. What does he have to wear pants for? Listen, Dwayne, come in. No pants. You don't need pants. Okay? No pants, no ID, nothing. We just want you to come in and vote. I still can't do it. I still feel this oppression so deep in my heart. It's I should make that into a sketch. But again, it's like kidding, of course, but at the same time, not really, because they keep on disempowering these communities, and they're doing it in the name of keeping power. It's my opinion. Let's get into this last video. Wesley Hunt has entered the video. Let's go.
I have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Congressman Hunt, proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Graham, for having me here today to speak about voting rights in America, the country that I love dearly. More importantly, I'm here to talk about the left's soft bigotry of low expectations. Because it's the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party, that thinks so little of black America as a people of color that they make the case that being black in America means we can't obtain a government ID to vote. And that's not only a ridiculous assertion, it's demeaning and it's insulting. When it comes down to it, many of my colleagues on the left like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s. Well, we're not. I've got some good news for you. It's 2024, and I know what year it is because I've been black for just over 40 years. And I'm also the son of a retired lieutenant colonel who grew up in a segregated South. You see, my parents grew up in a Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. Their next generation, my parents had 3 kids. My sister, brother, and I all went to West Point, all 3 of us. We all served our country in combat. And I sit before you today as a sitting United States congressman in a district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that's a white majority district, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I won by almost 30 points. And that doesn't happen unless we've made some incredible progress in this great nation. Now, my colleagues on the left like to say that common sense voting laws, including requiring a government-issued ID, are racist, discriminatory, and burdensome. Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government-issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government-issued IDs, and while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen? It's very simple. It's personal responsibility for all Americans in this country, regardless of what you look like. Sitting with me today is my global entry card, my military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport. What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 government-issue IDs? Personal responsibility in this country. I fought for this country as an Apache helicopter pilot to protect free and fair elections. And having a government-issued ID isn't racist, it's American. You need to have an ID to drive a car, to check into the airport, open a bank account. You need an ID for basically everything to be a responsible adult in this country, except for voting, apparently, according to the left. Black America does not need well-meaning liberals putting their arms around us and telling us how we should go to the polls. In fact, if you look at recent headlines and polls, you will find that black men specifically in this country are more fired up than ever to participate in the next presidential election. And I think I know why, and I'm really looking forward to these results. For the record, in the 2022 midterms in Georgia, it proved that election integrity and ballot accessibility can be achieved hand in hand. After the 2020 election, Georgia passed a voter election integrity law, and subsequently, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia alleging that the Georgia law is discriminatory and aims to restrict citizens from voting. President Biden even called this law, and I quote, Jim Crow 2.0. Really? In my humble opinion, referencing Jim Crow for common sense election integrity laws is offensive to those who actually experienced Jim Crow, like my parents and their parents before them. In fact, the law wasn't discriminatory at all, because in the 2022 midterms, Georgia voters shattered voter turnout records across the state. And despite that record-breaking turnout in Georgia, the DOJ lawsuit is still pending. I suspect that it's because that record-breaking turnout resulted in a Republican governor being elected in Georgia, but I digress. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, which I tend to do. I have a lot of respect for John Lewis, but the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is not about protecting voting rights. It's about solidifying Democrat power nationally. It's about federal control over state and local elections, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. It's about diminishing the security of our elections. And voter integrity laws aren't discriminatory. They are required for a functioning constitutional republic. I'm going to tell you today, I categorically reject the soft bigotry of low expectations. Black Americans and people of color are proud. We expect more of ourselves. That's what Black excellence really means to me. And above all else, we don't need a new solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Let me be clear. Making it to the polls to vote in person with an ID in this country today is a very low bar, extremely low bar. We can do it, white people can do it, black people can do it, Americans can do it. And we should all want that for free and fair elections. If you want to be on the right side of history, you should reject the Democrats' party's attempt to wind the clock back 70 years. Because I'm sitting right here in front of you, and I'm here to tell you we've come a long way. Let's continue this progress. Thank you for your time.
Wow. The Honorable Wesley Hunt. Wow. He just went right in. And again, echoing what Candace said, echoing what I was saying, it's obviously this is a play for power. It can't be anything else. Because there's literally, they have this, Ted Cruz was talking about the stats. The stats show it. There are actual black people saying it, and yet the left just pushes on and just says, no. You don't get it. You don't get it. It's racist. You don't understand. Shh. Hush your black mouth. You don't understand. Shh. We're going to save you. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. They're just, again, I've talked about this on the main channel. If you're new to everything, like I have one channel, I have another channel. I've talked about this before. This is just a way to infiltrate certain demographics and struggles. So they're just trying to infiltrate the black struggle. That's their Trojan horse. They're like, let's get into this black and Latino struggle, and let's just say that it's racist. And let's just keep pushing that horse in until we get into the fortress, and then we'll open up what it really is, which is a bunch of voters. Because right now, it's very clear by what they're doing with the immigrants that are coming in, especially Tyson Foods, just hiring a bunch of them, getting rid of actual Americans, hiring a bunch of immigrants. It's very clear that if you cared that much about the Black and Latino communities, you would stop the flow at the border. You would stop going into places in Chicago. You'd stop going into schools and telling the schools that they have to do their lessons online and filling with immigrants. You'd stop doing that in overwhelming police stations. You'd stand up when police officers get jumped in New York. You'd stop malls getting cleared out so they can fill it with cots. You'd stop all this if you really cared about those communities, because at the end of the day, we're starting to see those communities are suffering the most because of this. But yet, the thing that you're focused on the most is voter ID. I don't know about you, but I'm not buying it. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.